In this lesson, we'll do an example problem involving derivatives of trig functions. We're asked to find the derivative of the function f of x equals x squared plus 3x plus root x times the quantity x to the fifth sine x plus x to the minus 3 all over x squared plus cosecant of x. So the first thing that we'll notice is that we have a quotient, so we're going to need to start by applying the quotient rule. So the quotient rule says that we're going to do the derivative of the top and then times the bottom minus the top times the derivative of the bottom all over the bottom squared. So the first thing that we're going to start with is finding the derivative of the top. Now notice that the top is a product, so we have two separate terms in the top. So when we find the derivative of the top, we're going to need to start with the product rule. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to start with our product rule, which says the derivative of the first. So we get 2x plus 3 plus 1 over 2 root x for the derivative of this first term. And then the product rule says times the second term. So we get just times this x to the fifth sine x plus x to the minus 3. And then the product rule says the next thing we get is plus the first term, so x squared plus 3x plus root x, times the derivative of the second. Now notice when we do the derivative of the second, this x to the fifth sine x is again a product, so we're going to need to do the product rule on this. So we're going to get derivative of the first, 5x to the 4, times the second, so times sine x, and then plus the first, so x to the fifth, times the derivative of sine, which is cosine. This should be a plus, so that's a plus cosine. And then plus the derivative of x to the minus 3, which is minus 3x to the minus 4. And again, this should be a plus cosine here. So then we're getting all of that. So what this is giving us is, so this entire expression here is the derivative of the top, and then we're going to get that times the bottom. So in our next step, we're getting that times the bottom, and then we're going to get minus the top times the derivative of the bottom. So we're going to go down to the next line. So we're getting minus the top. So minus, and again, I'll just keep putting it in. The derivative of sine is plus cosine, so this should be a plus. So now we're getting the top, and we're going to multiply this by the derivative of the bottom. The derivative of the bottom, derivative of x squared, is 2x. Derivative of cosecant is minus cosecant cotangent. If you didn't remember that, you could write this as 1 over sine and find the derivative of that using the quotient rule. So finally now, so what we have here was the derivative of the top, which we found using the product rule, times the bottom, and then minus the top times the derivative of the bottom, and then the quotient rule says we do that entire thing all over the bottom squared. So all over x squared plus cosecant of x squared. And again, this was a plus cosine x from your derivative of sine. So we had to use the quotient rule with the product rule inside the quotient rule.